dangerous thoughts. It's dangerous. I'm just learning about religion and few, you know I'm honest. Rolled from LA, Colorado, gripping drugs in my pocket, cause my religion includes hallucinogens. Ayahuasca, DMT, the spirit world begins, and you take a little trip inside of your soul. It's what they did in the biblicals before they wrote. And if you don't believe me, read the mushroom and the cross. Hello at 6 p.m. Welcome to Dangerous Thoughts, where we're also gonna talk a bit about nuclear power, about the thing that fires all our TVs and towers. It's the wave that keeps us going and the light on at night. It's some crazy fucking shit we're gonna talk through the night on Dangerous Thoughts, on Dangerous Thoughts, on Dangerous Thoughts, Dangerous Thoughts, Dangerous Thoughts. I'm Manu and Reme. My co-host is Tyson Strausberg, and this is Dangerous Thoughts. It's nuclear power and religion and Robert Benn, and that's what we're doing. And this is not the end; it's the beginning of Dangerous Thoughts. Getting radiated. Hello there, everybody, and welcome to Dangerous Thoughts. I'm your host, Manu Reme, and it's Sunday at 6 p.m. You know what time it is? It is time for Dangerous Thoughts. So tonight, can everybody hear me out there? Can you hear me?
Yep, you're loud and clear.
That's fantastic. That's great news to start the show knowing that we can hear each other, correct? That's a one-up. It's a plus. So tonight we were going to have actor Robert Benn on the show, like last week when we were going to have actor Robert Benn on the show, but he is, pulling the what do they call it? What do the kids call it these days? He's ghosting us at the moment.
He's ghosting us. Yeah, that's.
But we'll call him as soon as I get his number from a friend of mine. And otherwise, we're going to talk about nuclear power versus religion tonight on Dangerous Thoughts. So I didn't know why I picked nuclear power and religion to go together. But it just seemed like we could find the link if we spent an hour digging deep enough, that maybe we could find the link between the two. And I know who wins, religion versus nuclear power. Who do you think wins?
Well, religion every time, because they have the nuclear power, right?
Okay, that's fair. Fair. What do you think, Tyson?
I think of the Large Hadron Collider. They're looking for that God particle, and as part of nuclear physics. Found it. As part of nuclear physics. So when we talking about nuclear power, are we talking about power as in military might, such as the nuclear, Oppenheimer nuclear bomb? Or are we talking about nuclear power like San Onofre power plant nuclear power?
Well, I think we're talking about all of it because it kind of goes together. You've got the positives, the atom bomb. I'm sorry. You've got the positives. I did that on purpose. You got the positives. You got you could argue that nuclear medicine is a positive and nuclear power you could argue is a positive. But we also got to talk about nuclear powers and who has the warheads and where are they going to land and are we going to shoot them off? And are we going to shoot them off because of religion? A lot of angles.
That's a good question. Well, not just religion, but you have some wackadoos out there, right? Like North Korea, Kim Jong-un. I don't know that there's a particular religion that he subscribes to, but
Marxism.
He's got some nukes. Well, yeah, communism. I don't know if that's a religion, but he's got the nukes. And all it takes is an insult, or he feels slighted, and
Yeah, I think it'd do more than a. What do you think it sounds like? A nuclear bomb? Probably pretty bad, huh?
If a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it, I think when the nuclear bomb goes off and you're incinerated, I don't know if there's a sound.
At that point, I don't think the sound matters so much.
No.
I think you think that the blast hits you before the sound does? Does the wave of blast travel faster than the speed of sound?
The during the explosion, obviously there's radioactive material and radiation. Radiation emanates from there's a what is that called? Uh, a burst. What is that? Electromagnetic pulse that immediately radiates out at the speed of light. So people can be irradiated long before the wave of wind and everything comes and so yeah, you could be killed pretty quick. Well, it also depends on how close you are to that bomb. They say within uh like 5 miles you're instantly vaporized. Within 50 miles you are hopelessly irradiated, and within 100 miles you can suffer radiation burns but still live. It progressively eases as you go further away from the bomb, but people closer just
But it
vaporized.
was the invention of splitting the atom and the nuclear bomb that led to nuclear power and the things that the plants that we have that keep our lights on, etc.
Fission. We're using fission, and of course the dream is to find a fusion reactor. It was in the news recently that for the very first time in human history, they were able to fuse an atom. We've always been able to fuse, but it's always taken more energy than it gave off, which is not what an energy plant wants. They want to have a net gain. We can split atoms, we can have fission, and it's very efficient. We've used it for decades. But to have fusion reaction that has a net positive energy output has been very elusive. But for the first time in human history, I want to say 2022, maybe 2023, January or so, there was a huge thing in CNN that for the very first time. Now, it was just a tiny bit of energy, and it was huge, laboratory that did it. We're probably 50 or 60 years away from fusion power plant.
Power plants, and fusion power plants don't create the waste, right?
Zero waste. That's why it's the dream, right? Zero radioactive waste. Nothing.
Yeah. Wow. So I just think how wild it must have been for how many years did it take, you think? I should have looked this up. Between the time where we invented, I say we because the Allies, the time between Oppenheimer and the Allies and Einstein, all those secret guys working out there at Area 51, invented the bomb, and the time it took between that and how to control it and make power out of the explosion. Like, how much later did we suddenly open our first nuclear power plant?
Actually, that's kind of a misnomer. There is no explosion like in a gasoline engine, right, where gas is spit into the chamber, it's compressed, it drives a piston that turns a crankshaft. There is no explosion. What they do is they use the nuclear fission to heat water, which boils the water, and it's almost like a steam locomotive, right? There's these turbines that spin from the steam that is generated from the heated water, and that's how a nuclear power plant works. It's not controlled explosions.
But they somehow control that fission reaction, which is highly delicate.
Right. They have nuclear rods that are lowered into these baths that will heat the water, and they control it by the rods being lifted and put down. So the rods can be lifted and put down, but they're highly irradiated, and it produces this awful toxic mess that has to be stored, and it remains radioactive for, I want to say, centuries, not even decades, but centuries.
250,000 years, I think, at least.
Yeah,
maybe 500,000 years. I forget what the half-life is, but it's radon, right? Is the rods? Maybe, I don't know. I don't know much about nuclear power. I find it fascinating, though, and it has to be somewhat of a controlled knowledge. I mean, if it wasn't, every nation in the world would have nuclear power of some kind, and they don't, as far as I know. Right? I mean, and then the idea of let alone controlling a fission reaction, but of a nation developing nuclear weapons, that's a whole different story too. I think Kim Jong Un was the first one to do it in a while. And how did he secure that information? Just scientists within his country taking bits and pieces off the internet and then going off their own.
Well, okay, yeah, but building off of others. I mean, there's some things that are publicly available. I mean, how a nuclear reactor works and how you heavy water and plutonium and uranium and that's not secret. How to make a bomb out of it is probably information that either is publicly available or but that's knowledge that spans all the way back to the 40s that they probably got a hold of and started testing. And any country, I would assume, if they put their national priority, could create a nuclear weapon. But there are accords and there are agreements to try to keep nuclear peripheral. God, I can't even say that. Neither could George Bush. Proliferation. Fuck it. To keep it from spreading to other countries, because it would be dangerous. We have something like 200 some odd countries. Can you imagine if all of them had a nuclear arsenal? Right. We were just talking about some of the wars that happen in Africa, including the Congo. I mean, lots of genocide. Imagine if each one of those countries had nukes. Think of some of the Middle Eastern countries that have talked about the Zionists and the state of Israel. I mean, what if some of those countries had nukes and they could
don't
point
they?
it at,
Isn't Jerusalem a nuclear power? I mean, isn't oh, come on.
Israel is
Israel a nuclear power?
Yes, it's nuclear power, but obviously they've never once lobbed a nuclear weapon. In fact, the only country to ever use a nuclear weapon is the United States, and they've only ever been used twice in a war type situation.
3 times.
Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
Nagasaki, Hiroshima, and in the basement of the World Trade Center, number 1. Let's moving on.
Was that nuclear?
I think there was a thermonuclear warhead used in the basement when we knocked down the towers. Yeah, but that's my personal opinion. Well, moving on. I think there was. I mean, they flew planes over that mess for a couple of years afterwards, and the heat underneath all that rubble was massive heat. There
would have been a radioactive signature, though. Anything nuclear would have had a radioactive, it would have irradiated the population within a certain, and I don't think anybody suffered radiation poisoning. There was lots of burns, but if it was thermonuclear, now believe me, we have conventional explosives.
Many thermonuclear bombs that are just like.
Well, yeah, but they would still have there'd still be radiation. It would, Geiger counters would be going off. But we have conventional bombs today that are extremely almost as powerful as a nuclear bomb, which could have easily, if you're a conspiracy theorist and you think that's what brought down the Trade Center, it easily could have been done with conventional bomb.
I wonder what it would have sounded like, a thermonuclear warhead in the basement. Is it just a bunch of heat that would like melt everything? Would you hear a boom in a thermonuclear? In a mini nuke explosion?
Any explosion would create sound. I don't know if there, there is.
It's been a while since I looked at the 9/11 stuff, but when I did, there was all these firemen and all these people in the building that said they heard an explosion in the basement and they said it blew up the elevator shafts. And there's all this footage that they've since erased from CNN and that they were showing on the day of, we heard an explosion in the basement. We heard an explosion in the basement. And then when the planes flew over to take readings, the heat signatures of like how hot that pool of hot magma underneath the tower was, like temperatures that it shouldn't have been were it not a small thermonuclear thing doing its job down there. But hey, that's all crazy stuff. And probably real. What did Lolly just say before Chernobyl? That is exactly why nobody is as trigger happy as they would want you to think. It would literally be the end of the world. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you'd have to be kind of a numbnuts to launch a nuclear warhead. The problem is, I just think there are so many numbnuts in the world. I think most of us are good people, Lolly, and I get weirded out with nuclear power and nuclear warheads and AI we were talking about last week, because these are technologies that only a few bad harbingers of evil have to get their hands on to affect the rest of us. It doesn't have to necessarily even be a nation state war. Dave says December 1942, the first official nuclear reactor in the world was brought online in Chicago. Wow. So we brought on nuclear reactors before we had the bomb. The bomb wasn't dropped until 40.
I am not a historian, so that's news to me.
That's wild. So we understood the reaction. We just hadn't quite completely split the atom. So nuclear fission must not be a complete splitting of the atom. Must be like an almost splitting or something. I don't know. Interesting though. I think when it comes to nuclear power versus religion, I think nuclear power wins every time, because if we have a thermonuclear event, man, there might be survivors, and if there are survivors, they're going to turn to God immediately. So you're right, religion. Yeah.
Well, there's also, if people who are religious and believe in a religious afterlife might say that no bomb in the world, while could kill your corporeal self, could harm your eternal soul, which goes on for eternity, and therefore, when you look at eternity, what is 80 years, and in a lifespan of a human, and how could nuclear weapons ever compare with God? So that's going to be the pushback. I don't know.
Yeah, they're just a tool of God. I mean, God uses nuclear power. The sun and all the stars in the galaxy are nuclear power, right? And full of radiation.
Absolutely.
Radiation is everywhere. So I got a lot of stuff to talk about. But let's talk about Chernobyl versus Fukushima. So these are the two times in history that we've had a full meltdown at a nuclear power plant, right? And I wonder how much devastation and how much radiation has reached us. Like, do you think any of those, I forget what they call them. It's a big word for how they, you say micro radions or micro, I don't know what the word is, but it's a big word for how much radiation you take in. Do you know the word?
No, I don't. Yeah. Chernobyl in the early 80s was a man-made disaster. They were trying to test an emergency shutdown. It went wrong. They couldn't. The reactor went critical, and there was an explosion. That's Chernobyl. Fukushima was a natural disaster. There was a large earthquake, which created a tsunami, which destroyed some of the mechanisms, because you typically want to have a power plant. And you're from Southern California, Manu. You probably are aware of
I used to live right next to
the San Onofre. We used to call them the power plant titties.
The boobs.
The nuclear boobs, right. The nuclear boobs. So you usually want to have one on the coast, because that's where you get a lot of, water. You want to have access to a lot of water when you're talking about a nuclear reactor. And so they're often, you'll see them along shorelines. And
bad idea. We learned in Japan, bad idea.
Yeah, tsunami took out Fukushima.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I think 3 reactors there all melted down, right, at Fukushima, or 4 even.
They had 4. I don't know that all 4. I think 2 or 3 out of the 4 did.
3 of the 5 or something did. And they just kept on exploding and kept on melting. And I think to this day, it's still melting down through the earth, right? It doesn't stop. If you can't
at some point, but yeah, it does. It keeps. Yeah, they had to put a dome on Chernobyl, and it was a worldwide effort. People from all over the world, scientists, helped and financially pitched in also to create this huge lead dome that sits on top of Chernobyl.
Wow.
to keep that radioactive material away.
From continuing to spew out because of the meltdown that is still going. Does it keep going down? Like at some day on the other side of the ocean? Like, oh no, because it would end up in the core of Earth, and then it would just be molten with the rest.
Oh, it doesn't go that far. Yeah, they had to. I want to say in Chernobyl, people died trying to dig underneath Chernobyl and to fill that with cement so that it wouldn't go beyond a certain point.
It wouldn't get into the
HBO,
water structure. Yeah.
yeah, I want to, and it would have exploded. If it hit the water table, it would have been a nightmare. But I want to say HBO did a 6-part special, and it was beautiful.
Oh, it's beautiful, amazing. If you haven't watched Chernobyl on HBO, you absolutely should. I remember when those guys were on top of Chernobyl and they were told they had 1 minute and 30 seconds to go out there and shovel as much of that irradiated
and then run back.
And then run back inside. And that's what that's the word I was looking for, is the amount of micro radions or something. I can't find the damn word. It's bumming me out. Because you can measure radiation in so many units of different things. But I was just thinking those guys, every one of those guys that ran out on that roof and sacrificed their life, basically, every one of them died. Not maybe that day, not maybe a week later, but a lot of those guys died a week later, a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later. Some of them lasted longer. But for me, if I'm going to go out there, man, and, do my duty for mankind and shovel that shit, they were telling guys, don't look over the edge into the core reactor itself, or, that would be that. I couldn't help it. I'd be like, I'd get to my 1 minute and 28 and I wouldn't want to suffer. So I'd go take a look down in there to see what, hell really looks like. And then I'd just lay there on the roof. It's awful. Better than going home and laying there and all that irradiated body for gnarly stuff. But the crazy thing about this nuclear power too is it helped create. I found out that mustard gas in World War II is how they discovered chemotherapy. Did you know that? That's crazy.
News to me.
Yeah, so there's apparently some irradiated stuff that they use in mustard gas, and somehow they figured out from these people that got burned by the mustard gas that maybe they could like irradiate out the cancer from our bodies.
I don't know if mustard gas has radiation. I think it's a chemical, and I think that's why chemotherapy is chemical therapy. It's not radiation therapy, which is a little different.
Really? I thought chemotherapy was like they put an actual irradiated substance in your blood. Am I wrong?
I don't think they do that. There's directed radiation, but I thought chemotherapy was a chemical therapy. But you know what?
Who knows?
I'm the first to admit I am probably wrong. So do not put all those eggs in that basket.
You think Chernobyl was worse, or Chernobyl versus Fukushima? What do you think?
I think it was worse because there was no with Chernobyl. I mean, okay, with Fukushima there was an earthquake. We're talking decades in the future. We had response to it, a more technological response. With back in the 1983, 84, whenever Chernobyl was, far less sophisticated, and I don't think there was the rapid response. Plus, think of where it was. You're talking about communist Russia. This was in the Ukraine. Chernobyl's in Ukraine, and it was part of the USSR at the time. And for the longest time, they kept it a secret. I think almost a week went by, and it was Switzerland or one of those countries that said, "Hey, we're detecting radiation." Yeah, before they had to come clean about it. With Fukushima, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Fukushima, thank you. It was reported, that day, that minute, that hour, and the response was immediate. And I think that made a huge difference too. So technology and time.
I think it was because when that first initial tsunami came in, they were like, Fukushima. And then when it hit the the nuclear power plant there. Oh, Fukushima. 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 Yeah.
Well, it was
We're
it was not
canceled.
good. Yeah, right.
I said Fukushima. Like fuck you and fuck me.
That didn't make it better. Yeah,
But no,
I
traditionally,
think you're right.
I am, I just watched a special. Also, it was like Chernobyl, wasn't as good as Chernobyl, but it was on Netflix, and it was about the Fukushima and how it went down, and there was a really, really poor response between the prime minister not being informed and the people at the power plant not knowing exactly what went wrong or how to fix it. And it was the same story basically as Chernobyl. There was a lot of, we don't know what the hell to do going around. And not a lot of experts there that knew why things exploded. It's pretty phenomenal if you watch that documentary as well. I think it's just called Fukushima, maybe. But that government response seemed as inept as the Russian response from the 80s. We found out about it earlier than, but they tried to hide it from their own people. They didn't evacuate the town until like 2 days into the meltdown. They thought that radiation would only spread 3 miles, and then it was 30 miles, and then it was hundreds of miles. Then it was suddenly a radiation cloud floating across the Pacific, Atlantic.
I think they underestimated. I think they initially there was only minor damage. So, because that's how it starts, right? There's only minor damage. But then that minor damage was enough that they couldn't keep it online, and things started to melt. And once it melts,
once
it
the power
goes, and then
you got nothing to read any. I don't know what's happening in Plant C. We got no power.
No power is bad. And here's the scary thing. Right now, with the war in Ukraine has some of the most nuclear power plants in the world. I think there's something like 10 nuclear power plants in Ukraine. With that war going on, don't you think it's just a matter of time before one of them, the power is cut and they can't cool the uranium and it starts to melt down? I mean, isn't that just a matter of time? That's scary.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's already happened and we just haven't heard about it. It's terrifying. I think nuclear power in and of itself is terrifying. I'm really glad they shut down another power plant in California that I grew up by. It was called, it was out by San Luis Obispo. Can't believe it, man. I went to high school right next to my friend's dad, who was one of the dumbest dudes you'll ever meet, worked at that place. And so I thought, man, that's the other thing I wanted to talk about. I don't think that people that go to work at nuclear power plants, I think they keep the information on how the plant really works sort of boxed up into very, very little specific categories, to the point where there's really only a few people in the know about how that plant really operates. And they're all just going off like textbooks and almost like a call center, where they're just like, oh, well, if this happens, then we turn this knob, and if that's it.
Well, not everybody works there as a nuclear physicist, right? You only need a few of those. You need a lot of labor. People who know how to dial a knob and do what they're told. Just look at Homer Simpson, right? Where does he work?
Nuclear power plant, yeah.
And eats donuts, right?
And
so that, yeah, absolutely. You're right. There's only a handful of people that truly understand the entirety of how everything works. They're nuclear physicists, they understand. But a great deal of people are engineers, and they know about a certain section of the plant. Like this section of the plant, I know everything about. I know this section. This guy knows this section. That guy knows that set. They all have their specialties, but very few people have that overarching understanding of all of it.
Yeah.
By the way, and I think
dad, he reminded me of Homer Simpson. He was that, like, he'd come home and he'd drink like 48 Budweisers and he'd go to work the next day. And I'd be like, he's running that shit.
I don't know about running it, but maybe works there. And that. By the way, you and my husband both graduated from Arroyo Grande. That's where Mike graduated.
Arroyo Grande High School. Also, I can't believe I can't think of the name of that power plant, but they shut it down just a few years ago. They shut it down, and it was time for it to be shut down. It was an old plant. It was also directly on the ocean in Avila Beach. So it was cool that place got closed. But since this show was sort of a last minute deal for me, I didn't get to do much prep at all. But I was wondering about what percentage of our power in the United States that keeps all these major cities lit up at night comes from nuclear power compared to what comes from so-called clean energy power. I'd love to see the statistics on that. By the way, guys, if you're out there and you're watching Dangerous Thoughts live on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook at Mono and Tereme, and at Dangerous Thoughts on YouTube, subscribe, like, tell your friends. But also, if you'd like to come on and speak, please send a tweet to @SubscriptPirate. That is @Subscript. Subscript is SUBSCRIPT, pirate.
Without the S.
Without the S. @SubscriptPirate. Just send them a little note that you want to come on the show, especially if you know anything about the history of religion and if you've studied that shit, or you know anything about nuclear power, because it's obvious that Homer and me and Homer, the two Homers here need some help talking about nuclear power, because we really don't know much about it. So we're going to switch over now, I think, actually, what do you think? Because you do work in a hospital. Nuclear medicine has always been a tough one for me, because I've had a couple CAT scans, and I looked up the other day and I saw that it was either a CAT scan or a PET scan, one or the other, probably the PET scan, but gave you 8 times the background radiation that you absorb in your everyday life, like 8 years of that radiation of just daily exposure to the sun in one PET scan. And I think that some of these people that go in and get too many CAT scans or too many PET scans end up giving themselves the cancer that they're looking for.
PET and CAT use radiate like an X-ray. They use X-ray radiation to look at you. It's different than an MRI, which is magnetic resonance imaging, which uses magnetism as opposed to radiation. But yeah, PET scans, CAT scans.
I'm interrupting.
All right,
go for it.
This is me interrupting. We have a special guest here.
Hey, Robert showed up. All right,
just dropped in.
Speaking of nuclear bombs, let's bring on Robert Benn.
How's everyone doing today?
Hey, man, how are you? Thanks for coming on board.
I'm good. Actually, you know what? It's so funny. I took a nap and I set my alarm. Oh, I set the Alexa, and I guess Alexa said, "Oh yeah, you were tired."
Yeah,
so
Alexa,
she said no.
She decides everything for us these days.
Oh, of course, the AI is just getting smarter and smarter.
Yeah, and pretty soon it's going to tell us all just go.
Oh yeah.
Stay.
Listen, do you know the sad part about that is that I realize, like, there's stuff on my phone that I'll say but not do. Then the next thing I know, it's on my phone, and I'm like, "Are you listening to my thoughts?"
Oh yeah.
Like, how does this work?
Yes. No, they're listening. Every single phone is actually a receiver that this whole show right now is being recorded by this device, and all the stuff that I'm saying in this room is being recorded by that device and sent to high, smart AI intelligent supercomputers that spit back whatever information I'm talking about back at me in the most intelligent way to sell me that it can possibly figure out. To sell me shit or to twist my reality, my perception of reality further and further into my own rabbit hole. That's what these things are.
Of course. Why would it not?
Yeah. I mean, these things they're dangerous. They're absolutely dangerous.
But think about it. 30 years ago, it wasn't even a thought. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it wasn't a thought yet. It was still, we had to socialize like normal people.
Yeah, we had to actually go out and eat a sandwich.
Yeah, it's like now if we were to date someone, and while we get the girl's phone number, she has already Googled us to know she's dating us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
was
you
like,
know what
okay,
you know what they do in China? In China you have a social score,
oh
and
wow,
it's actually like the government, like not like a credit score in America, like
hmm
kind of messes you up if you got bad credit, can fuck your life up.
right,
Same way in China, they give you a social score. So people meet each other in
wow,
China, and before they even tell each other's names, hi, I'm Bob, hi, I'm Sarah. It's what's your
right.
score? What's your score?
Oh,
Oh, okay, we can hang out, we can talk. Yeah,
yeah, it kind of sucks.
Back in the day when I worked at retail,
it can.
I worked at Nordstrom, and I had to when I would go out for my cigarette break, I would go out and I'd have to bring a friend with me. We'd go out now. Just to be clear, my doctor told me I had to start smoking to quit chewing gum. So
Mm,
I went out for my cigarette break, and we would sit there, we would talk to each other, or if I had to go alone, I went alone, had a cigarette, look around, whatever. And then 20 years later, I go out for a cigarette break. What do? I bring my phone, and my head is buried in my phone. And if somebody's
exactly.
sitting
Yeah.
next to me,
Right.
their head is buried in their phone. We might be sitting right
Yeah.
next to each other, ignoring each other,
Yeah.
doing this. What's that?
It's
But
a
it's funny because it's like going when you go out on a date and you go to a restaurant, everyone's in their phone, not talking to each other. They're in their
Right.
phone. And I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm texting. But she's sitting right there. How are you texting her and she's right there? Oh,
yeah.
I don't want to really talk to her. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, I
What
Oh,
about
hate
people who
sucks.
text you in your own house? Oh my
Oh
God, I
yeah,
hate that.
yeah,
I have my
yeah.
husband.
That's
He'll be in the living room and he's texting me, and I'm in the bedroom. I'm like, can you get your fat ass into the room and just tell me? Why are you texting
right.
me? What the
Yeah.
hell?
That's like saying in the morning, hey, it's breakfast time. Do you want bacon? I'm right here. Just ask, do I want bacon? Don't text me, do I want bacon? And don't bacon emoji me. Like,
no.
did you just
Right,
bacon emoji me? Like, what's wrong with you?
right.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I, I
it sucks.
my friends in this world, I judge them by will they pick up a phone call. If
Oh,
you will pick up a
Yeah.
phone call from me and
mm-hmm.
actually say hi to me when I call you, and instead of just sending me to your voicemail or letting it ring and waiting for me
And
to
then
text you,
text you back,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
yeah, I'm
But
like,
you,
okay,
but you know,
a
that's
real
that's
friend,
worse.
the phone.
Yeah, that's the worst. Or my favorite is I'll look at the phone. I know you're calling. I'm like, what mood am I in? And my son caught me doing that one day. Is that what you do to me? No, it's not what I do to you. I said, do it to people I don't like my ex-wife, like ex-girlfriends. They get that. But when it's business, like being in the acting realm, I kind of gotta answer my phone all the time because you never know who's calling you. It's
And I
so
don't,
different.
yeah, I don't know about you, but for me, in my acting and producing career throughout Hollywood, I came from back in the day when we had beepers and
Mm-hmm.
we shot on film and shit, and we actually went to auditions and
Yeah. Yo, my God, yes.
auditioned for human beings in front of us.
And
Uh,
that was amazing because those were great days.
yeah, man.
Standing in line to get to just audition. I was number 50. Saying, all right, you're number 50, you're reading this. I'm like, okay, I guess. Now and it's like, can you audition online and send us it? I'm like, send you it. It's like,
Send you
actually,
a tape.
I'd rather stand in line.
Yeah,
That's the fun part of going for an audition. Because the guy in front of you, you hear him say, "Well, I'm gonna get this part. I'm gonna get it." You hear the guy behind you is like, "Hey, what are you reading? What are you gonna do? What's your monologue gonna be?" It's like and then you want to be secretive, but then if you're stupid enough to tell the person behind you, the person in front of you is gonna steal your monologue.
yeah.
And so I would say, "Hey, man, I'm gonna do this one with Glory with Morgan Freeman," and no, that's not what I'm doing.
Nah,
And then he'll go up there and he'll say, "I got it," and he'll try to do something. I don't even know the line from Glory, but I figured neither did you.
what I used to love about personal auditions with all the actors sitting there in the chairs is I would fuck with everybody that I could, especially people that I knew. If I saw friends of mine that that I auditioned with a lot, because you usually audition for the same type of parts as certain
Mm-hmm.
actors in town, and I would always say hi to them, try to fuck with their head because I knew I had my shit on lock. So
Right.
I would try to sabotage everybody into talking about their girlfriends or fuck
Right.
up their heads. Uh,
Right. But that was
You're not going to go in there wearing that, are you?
But now it's But now it is. From a producer's perspective, I don't know how they cast off tape because I've had people send tape. Like I have people in mind that I want to give the role. If they're not available, then we bring people in and we have people send tape. But when I watch tape, like even if somebody was great, I still want to meet the dude. I still want to see dudes like when he stops reading and interact with the guy and see if I want.
There you go.
You know,
anybody can monologue, but how do they act with the other actors? How is the chemistry?
Yes.
How is the bond? Is there do you see this happening? Like, oh, that looks good, or do you see others where it's like, no,
and especially for a lead role too. Like, how do you see this movie? What is your take on the film? What do you think it means? All those kind of things that they don't ask you. I don't know how they just cast off tape, especially.
But someone said to me, "Oh, you know what? You have to have the face." I'm like, "Well, what's wrong with the face that I have? Do I have a different face?" And I remember when I did Equity, and someone said he has to have makeup. I'm like, you kidding? Don't need no damn makeup. I sit in the chair. They put cocoa butter on my face and said, "You're ready." You've got to be shitting me. Did you just put cocoa butter on me? I said, I could have did that. And then the guy said, that'll be $400. I'm like, what? He said, yeah, it's a price in this chair. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. And it was so horrible because I said, never again. So every time I would get a lead in something, first thing says, are you putting makeup on? Yeah, I don't worry. I got my own cocoa butter. Don't you worry.
Yeah, don't you worry. I got it. Boom.
Yeah,
boom.
and it's horrible. I mean, I'm like, seriously, are you putting makeup on me? Do I really need it? I walk on set anywhere I go. I know if I know I have to be on set the night before, I've already shaved. I've already got my hair done. Everything's set. I remember when I sat for Kevin Hart when I did The Upside. Do we need the barber on set? Why? I've already took care of that. And then the guy said, no, I want to edge you out. The guy made my hairline way in the back. I'm like, how do I have a hairline in the back? I can hear my own thoughts now.
Yeah,
like it was so bad.
For me, a free haircut for any actor is a wonderful thing as long as it's a good one. But when they mess up your hair before you go out on a live show or something, that's awful. So Robert Benn is in the house. Let's show a little bit of Robert Benn's recent work. I think we have a what's it called? A trailer.
Clip? A trailer. There you go. Okay.
I've only been messing around in this business for 35 years.
That's it. Okay.
We got a trailer for Backwater Blues, I think, right?
Yes, we do.
Let's check out Robert's show, Backwater Blues. Robert's show, sorry.
I'll get it back. I swear.
I know that you love this place. And you kept me and Pollux busy out here, and you kept us safe when Dad died. And I know that you always wanted to drown in rum in this bayou, but this is about the best I can do, okay?
You, Castor Bennington?
Poppy knew who was involved in Mom's disappearance, man. It proves it right here.
I love Mom just as much as you do. But I just can't go digging in this graveyard again. I mean, hell, last time we did, it got us a long stretch in the pen.
You don't know shit about what's going on in Blackwater now. You know, you can't trust nobody in this town. Not the cops, not the cons, not the women.
Yeah, if you think for one fucking second I'm gonna let the person that's involved in our mother's disappearance skate, you're out of your goddamn mind.
And what are you gonna do about it, huh? Well, you can't even hold a job more than 2 weeks. Now you're gonna turn into some gumshoe fucking detective?
Fuck you. I'll do it myself.
Oh.
Thanks for nothing.
Okay.
Like yappy fucking yard dog.
What are you gonna do with that?
Oh, shit.
Where's the money?
What money?
All we want to know is where our mother is. That's it. That's all we want to know.
You guys?
What about us guys? Huh? What about us guys, huh?
It was Big Tuna's idea. I was forced to sell comics to certain people.
You got beer in that cooler? Is the bear shit in the woods? Is it Dixie?
Pope Catholic?
All right, let me grab my jacket.
Mr. Bennington said you'd have a final payment for... Okay then, have a nice day now.
Hey, you say much more than that. You won't have a tongue left to speak with. You understand?
Yeah.
That was such a good trailer. I mean, it's amazing. The trailer was awesome.
So, where's Backwater Blues take place?
Mississippi.
It's in Mississippi and like the bayou or something?
Yeah, actually, so it was I flew into Gulfport, Mississippi. And it's so funny. I get a call, Corin said, "Hey, I wrote a script. I want you in it." Okay. I didn't think about it and say, "No, I don't know. If you want me there, I want." And I'm like, "Where we gotta go?" Mississippi. I'm like, "Well, wait a minute." Then I started thinking like, what's the worst that could happen? I'm going to Mississippi. I go to Mississippi. We shot this in maybe 4 days. We shot everything within 4 days of 5 in the morning.
Wow.
Mississippi was so different because at 5 in the morning, it's cold as hell. At noontime, it's 72 degrees. You're in thermals. You're dressing like it's wintertime. And we shot this in February. I'm like, why is it 72 degrees? Why is it this hot? So I'm in the leather jacket. I'm in the heavy boots, the jeans. And I'm telling you, I'm sweating balls. But by 5 o'clock, I'm cold as hell. I'm like, I don't know what y'all do down here, but I can tell you this. The mosquitoes are the size of a fist. You sleep. If you sleep and you have your windows open, that's your ass. I feel for you.
I shot a film. I can feel you because I shot an indie film called "There's Something About Mary" that was made by an actor named. Not "There's Something About Mary." That's not what it was called. I wasn't in that movie. Something like that. Oh, literally right before Aaron.
Okay.
Where are those?
They're coming for you, Manu. They're coming.
No,
for you.
That's in Philly. Watch your back.
Whew. Okay, good.
But I think the difference with shooting that was it was really different because each day was a challenge. Even when we would do the scene in a parking lot, and I love films that give you direction. So we shot the parking lot scene. The next scene was our scene for the Pink House where I had to beat up Corin and Jason. So at the time they're like, "All right, we're gonna show you how to throw punches." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So me, I'm a big guy. So I used to be 400 pounds. Around that film, I was 358. I'm now 200 pounds, 298 pounds right now. So me as a big guy trying to throw this punch, I slipped a little. So Corin and Jason may have gotten a couple punches in. So, and then I said, "Well, how do you want me to throw them?" They said, "Wait, we're going to show you how to throw them. Don't you dare throw them." Yeah. So it was good. We did it, and we did everything in maybe 2 takes, got it all shot. And they looked at me and was like, "Wow, you're pretty good." I'm like, "All it needs direction. Show me direction. Tell me what you want." Anyone on film would tell you, any actor, any real actor will tell you, "All right, how do you want this to go?" That's how you know what type of actor you have. Because a lot of times people just get in character and get in mode, and then you're ready to go. And then the director's like, "I kind of don't want you that hard. I know you're a bodyguard or the boxer or whatever. I don't want you that hard, but I want you this way." We follow that direction.
And
but a lot of times,
fight choreography can be really crazy, man.
Fight choreography is very, very tricky.
Because you really can move so slow, and people don't realize this. I think people outside of Hollywood that don't make movies, they don't realize how slow you can actually move in a scene, and the camera speeds you up about 3 times as fast as you're actually moving. So it's hard to sort of find that natural slow speed where you're blocking and punching and kicking, and you're not moving as fast as you would actually be moving in a fight. But the camera helps speed it up.
It's about the snap. So if you're throwing it, the way your snap is, how you actually make it look like it connected, right? And it didn't. And I said, this is actually so dope. So all my friends who've seen it, people's like, damn, did they get hurt? Like, no, they're still alive. Must be in their contract.
Yeah.
But it was different. I love Mississippi. Mississippi was amazing. And anyone who knows me knows that any movie I do or anything, if I have to go film somewhere, I'm a day ahead. So I never leave and say, oh, I got to be here this day. Oh, no, I fly a day before.
Yeah,
I have the worst luck on airplanes. I flew into Mississippi on a tornado. Literally, it was a tornado. And I kept, and then I get to Dallas. First of all, I didn't fly at the beginning. I didn't fly that often. I'm in Dallas, and I'm like, so you have a layover. I'm like, oh, okay, hour maybe. No, Dallas layovers are 5 hours easy. So we're literally watching lightning from the sky. And the first thing I kept saying was, oh, we're good. And then the only thing that came to my mind was Back to the Future. I said, really? If the plane gets hit, I said, we're going back in time. The lady next to me says, it doesn't work that way. I say, lady, that's not my perspective. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Literally,
you're going down in time.
Right. We're going down. So the pilot said, oh, don't worry. The lightning's fine. We're going to just climb to a higher altitude. Dude, no, don't climb to a higher altitude. Stay where you are.
You're supposed to be under the tree.
Right. But it was different. So I always constantly tell people, when flying, fly a day before. Never fly your same day. Leave early, because if you got cancellations, trust me, it's going to be that day.
No, man, if you're an actor, show up early, show up way early, show up days early if you can afford to do so. It's going to help your performance. So what are they doing with Backwater Blues? Are they doing a little mini series? Or are we going to go for a TV series? What's the ultimate goal with this thing?
Hopefully the ultimate goal is TV series. That's the goal. I would love that. Oh, Corin's the best.
I've known Corin for years. Me and Corin did a Star Trek knockoff called Star Trek Renegades like 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, I actually seen that. That was so good.
Yeah, it's the first time I met the dude. I might have met him at a convention before that, but I've always loved Corin. He's a kick in the pants. He's fun to work with. It was fun.
He is a great guy.
It was fun to see him in that whole COVID getup he was wearing as that hick.
He grew it all. He grew all that in.
I kept saying, look, during COVID, I'm like, keep it. Looks good.
I said, are you cutting this? He says, no. I'm like, okay. I don't want to know where the homeless guy is going to be.
Yeah.
It was, I think even that too, for us, was different. And Corin and I, before we even did Blackwater Blues, we was doing Skittles Wars. So Corin and I would make jokes on each other. So Corin one day, he says, he shows this emoji of me. He showed the emoji of Eddie Murphy eating all the M&Ms off of the Nutty Professor. So he said, that's you. So I said, really? So we started this thing, came up and called the Skittles War. So he would go out and plant Skittles on all the trees and everything. And like, look, I got a Skittle tree. And he would just pick them off. So I said, you're right. You're absolutely right. And then he would go and have Skittle trails. Oh, look, there's Skittle in here. And the tagline would be no Skittles for Bobby. So I'm like, you're real good. So what I do, I went and got a whole studio. I bought a whole cast of people. I had got cameras, I got mics, I got everything. I rented out a pizza parlor and did a whole damn commercial off of it. And he said, I cannot afford that. I don't even know how you just did that. And I said, don't play with me. I got nothing but time in my hand. And it was good. And people loved it. I mean, we had millions of people on it. And when Corin would go to conventions, people would always say, no Skittles for Bobby. I'm like, I hate you so much. And that's how we started. We started our thing of working together.
I made the mistake of telling fans in Germany that I liked what's that horrible drink that we used to drink in college? It tastes like licorice. Is it not Goldschlager, but what's that?
Oh no, that's Jägermeister.
Jägermeister.
Wow.
So every time I went to a con in Germany, like every 10th fan, every 100th fan would give me a bottle of Jägermeister out of all. And I hate that stuff, man, because I drank so much of that stuff once when I was a kid that I got alcohol poisoning. I puked in a bush. I saw a raccoon. I remember seeing a raccoon that night, and I was like naked and covered in puke, and I just don't need any more of that liquor.
Did you owe that raccoon some dry cleaning?
Maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
Something funky happened that night, because I did get poison oak on my dick that night. I got poison oak on my penis. It was horrible.
Wow.
I don't know how we got to
my God.
But hey, Robert, so we were talking about nuclear bombs a little bit, and we didn't get much into religion. But are you religious?
I come from a Jewish family. I got adopted at 13. So I had my mom tell it, I'm 50-50. I'm 50% Jewish, I'm 50% Black.
So do you believe in the Torah and Judaism? Is that what you believe in?
Yeah, I actually do, and I'm a Christian. So it's so different because my mom would say, okay, now listen, we have to go to the synagogue. I'm like, I'm not going. My mom says, why? What's wrong with you? I said, because every time I go, I'm the only guy there, and they keep calling me Sammy Davis. And I kept saying, okay, this kind of sucks. But I would go there, and then I would go there. Then the following week, I would go to a regular Christian church. And then I'm sitting here confused out my mind because one says one thing, one says the other.
Yeah,
and
the
then
Messiah is coming, or the Messiah already came. And how do you yeah.
Now I have a question because Manu and I were talking about this pre-show about Judaism and Christian. I was raised Christian, and you're very familiar with the Judaic religion. And I was explaining to Manu that we are cousins. You know, the Christian religion and the Jewish religion are cousins because Christians come from Jews. Christ was a Jew, right? So that is. In the Christian story, that is the first part. The Jewish part is the first part of our story, and then Christian, has part 2. We call it the New Testament. But we are very much the Christian and Jewish religions related in that way.
And that's why we're cousins, and that's why the Allies in World War II created the Judaism, the created Israel, the
Jewish state, right?
And it's all from those ties. And actually, probably, I think I looked it up earlier, and it said Judaism and the belief in Zionism that there should be a Jewish state went back to 1897, and some guy named Helic, I don't know what his name was, but I think it went back probably way farther than that, because the Christians had been coming into those lands with the Crusades hundreds of years,
right?
So I think during all that time, there must have been a Jewish state. So the belief in a Jewish state like that we have now in Israel, it must have sprouted.
I agree.
1897. This goes
but you know what, though?
Way back. There probably was.
I lost you there. So here's the thing. Here's the thing that I used to always get as a kid. My mom used to always say to me, she says, well, we're going to talk about faith. And we'll be there talking about faith. And I would just look, and my dad said, you look so confused. No, I'm not confused. And my dad said, so what's your take on it? I'm like, so there were slaves. He said, uh-huh. Then there was Jewish slaves. He said, uh-huh. He said, how do you gather all this? Well, we all have the same problem. He said, oh, okay. Is that what you took out of it? I said, you made me look at Schindler's List. I said, how else was I taking out of anything? Then you go and refer back to African Americans who were beat down, tortured, and everything else. I said, we're all the same. And I said, cultural wise, we may have different sides of cultural belief, but we all have the same problems.
One thing that, as humans, the one thing that we all have, regardless of skin color, religion, nationality, age, we have happiness, we have sadness, we have pain, we have anger, we have, and that is expressed. And I, the hardest thing for me to reconcile as a gay man and raised as a Christian is in the Bible, to the best of my knowledge, in the New Testament, judge not lest ye be judged. And yet Christians seem to be the most judgmental people I've ever met. We're supposed to be kind and loving, but you look at some of the conservative
evangelicals and
yeah, they're showing, they're posing in front of Christmas trees with their AK-47s, and they're like what?
God hates faggots.
It doesn't reconcile with my faith.
Can I tell you, many times I would go somewhere with my family and we'll get that look. And I remember, I'll give you a perfect example. My mom had what did she have? We was catering an event. The guy see me and the first thing he said to me was, "You're late. Go change your clothes, get ready. I need you to serve these people." And I'm like, "Excuse me?" He said, "You're late. Let's go. I need you to hurry up." And it was a catered event. I said, "I'll be back." And I come back with my mom, and the first thing she said was he says to me, "What are you doing with the guests? What are you doing with her?" He said, "Go and serve this food." My mom said, "This is my son." The man's face dropped literally to the floor. And I said, "Hold on, let me talk to him." I said, "Do we still owe money?" She says, "Yes, I'll pay him at the end of the night." This man was so humble all night, or kissing my ass, so humble all night long. When it got time to pay him, I said, "Let's sit down and have a conversation." I said, "So you thought just because I was black, I was that guy?" And he says, "I apologize. I apologize." I said, "Let me ask you a question. How do you treat your employees?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Because you just treated me harsh." And he says, "Well, you know how it is." He said, "This is the way I was brought up." I said, "Are you Jewish?" He says, "No. Why would I be Jewish?" I said, "Okay." I said, "Are you a Christian?" He says, "No." I said, "Okay." I said, "I don't want to know anymore. Tell you what I'm gonna do. My mom owed you $3,200. You're getting 20. I said, "You're getting 2,000." And he was like, "Really?" I said, "You learn to treat people fair. Because if you didn't treat me fair, God forbid, I know you're not treating your employees fair." I seen the man 5 years later, he closed his business and everything down. It changed his whole view from me that one day. And he said, "I'm sorry." And I said, "What happened?" He said, "I had to lose my business because I was treating people unfairly. And someone else brought the same attention to me." And I said, "It's not about how you look and you're trying to run your business. It's the appearance that you give." I said, "It's not about color of your skin or anything else. It's about your attitude was so horrible."
Right.
Now, when I saw him, he had a different look. He got divorced. He said that his kids weren't talking to him. I said, "What was wrong?" And he told me, he says, "I was a bit racist."
And I had to see that for myself as a white person. I have a black coworker who I love dearly. Her name is Erica, and we were at lunch one time. We were talking. Now she's been pulled over because she's kind of a lead foot. I've been pulled over because I'm kind of a lead foot. And I also have a Latina coworker. Her name is Alexis, and we were talking about the times we got pulled over, and they both looked at me like this weird. You mean the first question he asked you was, "Can I see your license and registration?" I'm like, "Yeah." "What did he ask you?" And both of them said, "The first thing a cop ever asks us when we get pulled over is, whose car is this?"
Yeah, so true. So true.
I couldn't believe that.
It's a darn shame. Yeah. So
Whose
true.
car is this? That's not the experience of a white person. So why that means there is racism in policing.
Oh, of course
there is. My God.
Of course there is. That's what the whole fucking Black Lives Matter is about. There's systemic racism built into the core.
Yeah.
But that pisses me off.
Built into the core of our nation, not only our policing, but
that's so true.
Yeah, it goes farther than our police, but
but it's horrible.
I remember my grandfather was a cop in Chicago, and he used to tell my father that that their whole code back in the day, this is probably like, what was my 1940, 1930, they wouldn't fire back unless they were fired upon. If you were a cop, you did not shoot first. And in this day and age, cops shoot first all the time. In
Yeah.
fact, they shoot out of like, I don't know, he could have a knife. Wow.
Right.
Even though they have a belt with pepper spray, a baton, a stun gun, like look at
You
all
pull
the
your gun out
equipment they
first.
have.
Boys.
Why do you pull your gun out first?
Right.
Why are you carrying all the other shit if you're not going to use it?
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've seen stuff so much as a kid. I'm gonna tell you, as I still drive today, I see a cop behind me, I pull over immediately. And the cop would just be driving and not want me. But I was so used to that.
Let him go by.
Right. And then one time I pulled over, the cop pulls me over, didn't have his lights on. He said, I just gotta ask. He said, did you do something wrong? Did I do something wrong? He said, I seen you pull right over. I'm like, yeah, I seen you pull behind me. I said, and I tell him the story. I said, no offense. I said, it's not you. It's your uniform. It's your shield is what you represent. It's not you. And he said, really? I said, I come from a long way of cops being a kid, cops saying you can't do this, you can't do that. I've seen stuff on TV and traumatized as a kid. So when you see a cop, the first thing they do say is this your car? I'm driving it. And back then you couldn't be a smart ass and say, so if you're driving it, where'd you get this car? And then I'm like, do you want the truth or you want the lie? I don't know which one you want. And I can tell you many times of getting stopped was, all right, sir, both hands on the steering wheel. And we didn't have it as bad as it is now. Just put your hands on the steering wheel. They wasn't scared. They didn't have their hands on their guns like that. Just put your hands, and you obeyed the law. Now there's such a different standard. Like, your partner standing by your window, he's now got his hand on his gun, already clipped it off the belt.
Yeah.
Already. Back then the standard was different, and then they would leave you with a warning. So it wasn't that bad then, but now, oh my God, everything makes it like I don't want to get pulled over. I don't want this, I want that. But now
I love
how
a cop says, "I'm handcuffing you for your safety." Oh,
Yeah.
for my
Exactly.
safety. Thank you. How about we handcuff you for my safety? I don't need to be handcuffed for my own safety.
Yeah. And even the littlest pull or the littlest tug of like, hey,
oh
ow,
yeah,
and boom, there goes your face, and then face on the floor, fucking
Stop
foot on your back.
resisting. Stop resisting.
yeah.
And
you're
so
standing there. I'm not resisting.
Right. I'm not resisting.
I will tell you, this goes, and absolutely, black men in America are systemically fucking fucked up by police all the time when they shouldn't be. But it's also poor men in America. Because I have been harassed. I've had the same experience with police as you have, Robert. Like I've never had a positive experience with a police officer.
Yeah.
And
I've never gotten one.
I've always been made to feel criminal. I've always made to feel scared. I've never felt safe around a police officer. And it's a shame because, when I was a little kid in school, they told me these were the good guys. But then the good guys came in my house and took all my property and put my dad in jail and put me and my mom out on the street because my dad was growing a little bit of weed. And in this day and age, most states have legalized marijuana. So, but I sort of consider myself born criminal. And I can imagine as a black man in America, that's what a lot of you guys feel, that you're born criminal, that it's like, just because I look like this, I got to be doing something wrong, right? Because that's
why does every police car say to protect and serve?
To harass and unnerve is what I always say.
Right, exactly. My argument used to always be, so if I'm not filming, if I'm not doing anything on my downtime, I never grow a beard. I never grow a beard at all. And someone says, "What's wrong?" You ain't catching me. Everyone has a beard. I don't want you to ever say you fit the description. Why? You have a beard? Yeah. You didn't catch me. So I would never grow it. I've always been clean shaved. I'll grow a goatee, which is probably the best I'm getting. So when someone says you fit the description, I'm like, not possible. There's no way in the world I fit anybody's description. When I was, up until 3 years ago.
Unless it's 350 pounds.
Right. Listen, I used to wear a Kango, so all my films was represented by Kango. So anytime I did a film, I had my Kango hat on. Up until 4 years ago, I stopped wearing it because Kango stopped paying money. So I said, okay, no problem. So I changed my image. I grew my hair where I used to always keep my hair cut low or kept it bald. I changed my image. So one day, out the blue, the cop says, I know you. And I'm like, excuse me? He says, I know exactly who you are. He said, you're the actor guy. I'm like, impossible to know this. And he said, no, no. He said, you used to have your hat on back in the day. He said, you used to always wear a black Kango. And I kept saying, uh-huh, oh, okay. He says, so what made you grow your hair out? I said, because cops like you who knew me. I said, I had to change my image. But it was so much where cops knew who you were walking down the street. So I'm like, I don't fit your description. As soon as I changed my image, lost weight and everything else, people's like, aren't you that? No, it's not me. And my son used to always say, Dad, just tell them who you are. I'm like, it's okay. But as for me, whether I'm an actor, whether I work in the medical field, whether I do security, everyone said to me, how do you have a life where you still have your life and not this Hollywood life? I said, let me tell you something about Hollywood. Hollywood is called the light switch. When you got to go shoot a film, turn the light switch on. When you're done with the film, turn the light switch off. Because if you don't own yourself, if you don't have to govern your own self, and Hollywood does, you're never you. You will lose that you. And you know,
no
just
doubt.
as like just like I do, that
No doubt.
trust me, once you're in the limelight, you're in the limelight. But do something wrong. Oh, TMZ's on your ass.
It's a
and
meat
your life is over. Right. It's exactly right.
It's a meat grinder. They've used it as a way to sucker people to town, to make a few famous and give a few people a little bit of work. And then as soon as we build people up, we love to tear them down again.
I'm not a professional actor, but I do act a fool, so I consider myself an actor. Thank you.
All right, but we've gone over time, but I still got to hear this because I still can't reconcile this in my brain. You are a Jewish Christian, is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
So how do you reconcile this? How do you reconcile being a Jewish Christian? How's that work?
So
my mother seemed to think I was Jewish. Remember?
So so let me tell you how this works. So I was married twice. I was divorced twice. My mom said you got divorced because you didn't get the girl I told you to get. You have to marry a Jewish girl. And I said, yeah, the last Jewish girl you found in Trader Joe's, she had 6 kids. I'm gonna go, no, it's not happening. My mom used to always say to me, she says, listen, let your Jewish side come out and you'll get all the reward. I'm like, yeah, this didn't even sound right, Mom. You can't do that. But being Jewish and a Christian, it's like, it's like an actor. Turn light switch on, turn light switch off. It's so different. And when I can go anywhere and talk to people, people always say to me, you have no slang. You are not from a Black family, are you? I'm like, well, God darn, I'm not. And they said, what happened? So I'm Jewish. They said, oy vey. I was like, you're right. Exactly. That's what we're going to do.
Mom is Jewish and dad is Christian?
Yes. No. I got adopted at 13 by a Jewish family. So what I used to do every day after school, I would go to this store. And we owned a store called Army and Navy, the French Army and Navy. So every day I would go to this store and I would sit there. And at the end of the day, they would say, they'll drop me off home. And I would never go in the house. I would always stand on the porch. When I seen them get to the end of the block, I would run across the street to the abandoned house where I stayed at. So one day they said, hey, we never see you go in the house. They said, what gives? And I told them, I said, well, my parents didn't really want me. So I stayed living homeless for a while across the street. So they asked, well, can we adopt you? I said, you got to talk to my parents. And they said, really? I said, yeah. I said, I don't know how they're going to take it. And sure enough, they said, we don't care. I said I was in the system less than maybe a month.
So your adopted parents are Jewish and your parents are Christian.
Yes.
So
and it was
in your belief, do half the time do you believe in the Jewish customs and half the time do you believe that Christ is your personal savior? Or?
Well, today, right now, he is doing us what I would call a mitzvah, which is
I'm trying to get educated.
A good deed. Well, you explain a mitzvah better than I can. So Bob, please.
So here's the thing. I consider this. If I was going to a Jewish, if I was going to a bar mitzvah, I know how I need to be. My mom would prep me. My mom says, well, you got to go do this way, you got to go that. If you're going to a Christian baptismal or whatever else, It's not too hard to go there. It's like, oh, look, there's a baby. He's getting baptized. All right, good luck. It's so different, but yet it's the same.
So it's not
the
a real
same.
big deal. It's the same God.
No, it's the same guy, and that's the thing I keep telling people. I said, if you look in the Bible, how they say Jesus was portrayed, I'm like, well, he was a black guy. Jewish people say, no, he looked like Justin Timberlake, and I said, okay, I don't know if that's how it is, but
no. We were talking before the show. I was talking before the show with my producer Cassie, and he was schooling me a little bit on the war between Christians and Muslims and how long that's been raging. And the truth of the matter is that these are two sons of Abraham, Muhammad, and
same God.
Same God.
The Christian God, and the Islam is same. Allah, same God.
Same God.
And the same with Judaism, and we're all arguing and killing each other and slaughtering each other over the minuscule of details. And it's fucking ridiculous. I hope
for thousands of years.
Thousands of years.
What is it that God really wants from us? He wants our love.
Yeah,
and
but
what are we giving him?
Oh, we're giving bullcrap. But let me say this real quick. When you die and you go wherever you're going, my question is, are you going to be shocked when you get to heaven? Everyone has their different opinion on what God looks like. Everyone has a different opinion on what he looks like. So when you get up there, women may say, some guys may say, some people may say, oh, well, my God looked like Samuel Jackson. Well, my God almost looked like Brooke Shields. Or my God almost looked. We can't call it, but in our own mind, it's what we believe in. But God is inside us. It's inside. Our faith is inside of us. So when we're praying, but you have the God within you. So I always tell people, I'm like, however you think and however you believe it, it is there. But when we read the Bible, when we're reading the Jewish Bible, when we're reading anything, I always tell people, your description of how you look at life is how you see it within yourself.
Hey, I don't care what God looks like as long as I'm going upstairs. I'm worried, that's my first problem is, hey, just let me get upstairs. Then I don't give a shit what you look like.
Well,
I'm worried that my God's going to have horns. That's what I'm worried about.
I just don't want it to look like Supernatural.
Yeah, well, here's the thing I always think. If God is an almighty creator, the beautiful God at the center of creativity, the center of the universe of universes, of the multiverse of reality, it's just we bring up trans issues on this show. He, she, pronouns, he, they. God doesn't give a shit.
God
is not worried about those kinds of things. God is so much more than he, she, they, it. I mean, we can't imagine how beautiful the immenseness.
He cares about your heart and your soul more than what's dangling between your legs. I guarantee it.
Listen, I will say this, and this is funny as hell, and I will say this. When girls would come down from heaven, I would always say, when you're born, I said, you didn't stay in line long enough. They said, what happened? I said, you're missing parts. And they was like, what? Yeah, you must have been partying that day. And I'll never forget, I was dating this girl, and I said, something happened. And they said, what? There's no top. I said, you was up there partying and you forgot? I said, so they just threw you down semi-line. There you go. And I said, then the girls had to get the butt implants. I said, see, you messed up. So you was supposed to be up there getting it. You didn't. And now we have to come down here. You have to pay for it. And someone said, how do you just come up with this? I'm like, it's there. I said, so think about it. When you're on the assembly line before you get placed where you're going to go, they're building your character. They know which way you're going to be. They know what's going to happen. And then as soon as you get down, you realize, God darn it. And then I always tell people, if you feel like you're in the wrong body, you didn't stay up there to wait, because you would be where you want to be. I said, but now you have this thing called a choice. Live you, be you. And I tell people, be the person you are. Do not let someone tell you can't be. Do not let someone say that you're not. If you feel like you're this person, then be that person. Never let someone tell you that you aren't good enough, or you're not the right person, you're not the right fit, or you're not this. No, be you and stand up for it.
When I just said what I said, and you just said what you said, one of our listeners, Zolly, said, I think that's between people and their God. And I don't know what you meant by that. But what I do know that I get a little bit bothered by the Christian way of thinking, some Christians' way of thinking, not all Christians. But they believe that Jesus was the one true God, the one and only. And so if you
Well, Son of God, the Son of God.
the
Son of God, yeah.
the one and
Right.
only way to heaven. If you don't check in with this dude, there ain't no other way in. And that's what causes, I think, that to speak to what you were speaking about earlier, the judgmental side of Christians is they just can't get over that the Buddhist God might be the same as all these other religions.
Right.
Whether you're Presbyterian or Lutheran or Muslim,
Mm-hmm.
it might be the same dude. No pronouns involved.
But here's what pisses me off is that why do they need to get involved, right? Your relationship with God is between you and God. If you don't measure up, if you're doing the wrong thing, you're gonna find out when you pass away. I don't need my next door neighbor to be telling me or to be judging me or to be pointing a gun at me or to be threatening me, right? It's like I do me, you do you. Look, you want to preach, you can preach, but don't go out there and start violently making laws and doing things that where you're imposing a religion onto other people, like I'm required to follow your methodology. Fuck, excuse my language. Screw that.
All this a Christian nation.
But wait, let me just say this. How many times we've seen Star Trek 5? And Star Trek 5, Cybok was looking for God, and then it got to the point where it was like, when they kept getting struck down, it says, why does God need a ship? And then Cybok would come in many different forms of what people thought he was. And then he said, well, let me mind meld with you. And then what did Kirk say? Oh, he's not God. He's just an entity. Why does God need a spaceship? And it showed so much of what we're talking about. And I was like, wow, everyone has a different form of what they think God is.
I can't believe you invoked my very favorite Star Trek.
We might be so powerful as sons of the great creator with souls that our souls might be so powerful that we can actually create the afterlife the way our souls see it.
Correct.
So all these multiple realities that we're dealing with. So I know we've got a speaker, Katie, on the show, but we're 30 minutes overtime, and this is supposed to be an hour show.
That's what that was for.
All right.
So Katie, talk quick.
We will let Katie wrap it up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Jesus versus nuclear bombs. Who wins?
Neither. Sorry, but neither. I mean, I'm not religious in that sense. I'm a pagan witch, and I've been persecuted for my beliefs. But
that's another thing we share as people, that we've all been persecuted for our beliefs at some point in history, and some point
or race, or creed, or culture, or something, or political views, or whatever,
or sex,
views,
Exactly. I mean, I've been told I will burn in hell, not just for my belief system, but for my sexuality as well. And it's just like, oh, screw you. I will go where I will go. But also I want.
They'll save you a lot of money on blankets.
Oh yeah. Exactly. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's nice and warm down there, and I'm not very good with stairs, so the highway is probably better than the stairs for me. But
well, every time I see the pictures in the pamphlets of what heaven looks like, and there's like people in white robes petting tigers and
oh no,
it always looks so fucking boring to me. I'm like, if that's heaven,
why does everybody look like a Roman senator? I don't know.
Wait, I keep saying if I have to go to there tomorrow, I want a supernatural funeral. Put me on some sticks and everything, set it up on fire, and that's which way I want to go. It's like, you don't want a casket? Please just burn me at the stake.
Oh, I thought you were going with a Weekend at Bernie's type, tie my arms with ropes and make me.
No. It's supernatural.
My friend Robert.
Supernatural is always my favorite. So
that's the supernatural funeral I want.
Yeah.
Let a spring pop me out of my casket and give everybody a heart attack.
No, listen, it's so different because you know what? I believe that you have a funeral like that, you're going to go faster. And I mean, you're going to go. But I don't want to be sitting in the ground. I don't want none of that. I mean, if I'm going to go, I'm going to go from the way I came up. If I come from dirt, I'm going back to dust.
I'm going to share a hallucinogenic journey that a Christian woman that was like 80 went on a program I saw. Check this out. She ate a bunch of mushrooms legally in one of these experiments they were doing on mushrooms. And she was a Christian woman. She was like 84. She was dying of stomach cancer. In her mushroom trip, she saw these big dark waves that were coming at her, and they were terrifying, and they were massive, and they were scary, and they were getting closer and closer, and she was having a bad trip. And then finally she went, you know what? That darkness has something to offer me. That's it. I'm going to dive into it. And she dove into the dark waves. And as she dove into the dark waves, she said she felt her body break down into dirt. She said she felt she became dirt. And she was dirt for a while. And she was just sitting there vibing as soil, nothing, nothingness, blank, darkness. And then suddenly she felt herself become a sapling. And that sapling grew into this tree that lived for hundreds of years. And her granddaughters had babies, and a few of her granddaughter's kids walked underneath that tree that she was and reached up and picked a sapling off of picked a leaf off the tree that she was at the time. And she was looking at future generations of literally herself, her gene, her kids, picking a leaf off of her. And then that was the first time when I was listening to that girl tell her trip that I went, oh, you know what? Being dirt wouldn't be so bad. I get it. We become chemical fertilizer. We actually break down. We feed life, and I get it. Like that's cool. But I think I'll be cremated too. Even after telling the story, I think I want to be cremated. But I really don't give a crap what they do with my corpse after I'm gone.
Right.
I'm not here anyway. Do what you want.
I just don't want to come back as The Walking Dead.
Yeah, put me on a surfboard and just like with a little propeller and just send me out there weekend at Bernie's style.
Yeah, weekend at Bernie's. There we go.
I was gonna say you don't want to go to space. You want to just have your ashes just go to space.
If I go to space, I want to do it while I'm living, man. I want to, you know.
Right.
But I actually do believe that. I believe that our souls get sucked right out of our body by black holes. I believe black holes are some of the magic of God that creates this whole thing called the universe. And I think our souls get sucked out of our body with the power of the gravity of a black hole. And I don't know where they end up or how the afterlife works or you know, all the stuff that's in the religious books. Whatever you believe, you believe. But I do believe we definitely are like corporeally, we're tied to these bodies we call humans.
We're anchored. We're anchored to our corporeal.
Yeah. You know, time space suits that run out, and then the light switch gets turned off, and our souls go, phoom, and where they end up again, you know, I don't know, but I can't wait to see. I mean,
I hate it when they say
I'm not going to go kill myself tomorrow to find out.
No, we're not going to. Listen, there's
God's going to take care
Jim
of me
Jones
whenever He
juice.
wants to. No.
Yeah, I don't want
the Coast Guard for
drink
18 years. And my family says, you know, when you die, we're going to spread your ashes out to sea. And I said, you know, if I'm going to go on a cruise, I'd rather, to what you said, Manu, I'd rather do it while I'm alive. Don't go take a cruise and spread my. Can we go while I'm still alive?
Go get on the boat now.
Yeah. You can toss my dead body wherever the fuck you want, but can I go on the cruise first?
Yeah.
Right.
Because dead people look horrible. Have you ever seen a dead person? They're horrible. They have.
Oh my God, the makeup. Yeah, it's awful.
But it's so true. Yeah, it's so true.
Horrible death face.
Do that again. Oh my God.
It's true.
You know why it is? It's because you take your last breath. You go.
Yeah. And then you got that
and
face.
then you get stuck. You get the death face.
But it's listen. I've
like,
seen
Mom,
so much.
Mom, don't make the death face. Let me put your eyes down, and then we, you know, we don't like that face, so we pretty it up again before the funeral. But really, that's what you look like when you die.
The eyes open back, like I'm not done. Okay, gosh, Tom, I thought you were done.
See my pants. Stop it.
Like did your mouth open back?
It's a terrible looking face. I saw my grandma with the death face, and boy, was it ugly.
It's the look that you last see. Most people just like, I'm smiling. Okay, yeah, he was happy when he went. Then you have other people. You have people who sit up here and say, I cannot believe he went that way. His toes pointed up, or his toes pointed down, or his finger, his middle finger stuck. So yeah.
It's nice though.
That's how I want to go, with my middle finger stuck.
Yeah.
There's an end of a Kurt Vonnegut book where the world is I think it's called Cat's Cradle, and ice is coming across the world, and it's about to freeze everybody because of this hardcore weapon. And the last like totally religious cool guy in the world lays back, and as the ice is about to come, he like does one of those.
Yeah.
or that famous saying right before death strikes is like, I have no regrets.
That's what I want.
Right.
I tell people that all the time. I've almost died a few times in this life.
Oh,
And
I
the last time I almost died, what I thought was my last breath, and it turned out not to be, of course, because I'm still here, felt really bad. It was full of regret. And ever since that day, I've been like, get more truthful with people, be more honest with people, be cool
more transparent,
be more transparent, be more real. And go tie up those things that you were regretting in that last breath. Because when I go, I want to be able to go, that last breath, I want it to be filled with, you did your best, man. You did good.
Yep.
And I'm out.
Let it be.
And
let it be.
Even if I go, you did your best, man. You did good. It's fine.
But I understand. I understand.
Yeah. All right. Cool. I'm glad we got to talk to some religion. I'm super stoked that we had Robert Benn on the program. Thank you for
please
joining us.
have me back again. I love this show. I will be back again, dude.
We'll bring you back, man. I'm going to try to get Corn on the show next week or the week after. I hear he's getting married or something. Congratulations.
Today. He got married today. And
cool,
I talked to him. I talked to him the other day, and I congratulated him. And like I said, it couldn't happen to a better guy.
Yeah, good dude. And nice to meet you, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks
to everybody else. Thanks for our guest, Cat.
Katie?
It's Katie.
Cat's fine.
Cassie. Cassie and Katie. That is Katie.
Somebody get this man a beer.
Katie.
Needs a beer.
Yeah. I can't handle more than an hour show. 40 minutes go by after. Dangerous Thoughts is over tonight. Come back next week with we'll be talking about some other crazy, dangerous thoughts. See you on Overtime over at Twitter. See you guys.
There you go.